Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. We are part of the Believe in Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and alongside me is Adam Hall. Also brought to you by Bet Online. Get the latest odds, lines, matchup for baseball, football, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head over to the website and use your mobile device today and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we head on over to the Bettors Hotline to bring in former Arkansas Razorback head coach Houston Nutt. Again, start off, appreciate you making time for us to talk about the Resurgence, the new show on Hogs Plus, and I've watched it a couple of times and rewatched it again before we started, and I'll tell you what, they did a really good job on that, so thank you for joining us.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
Really want to start off with just when they come to you about doing this special in showing the opening clip of you walking through that tunnel onto the field. I mean, what memories did that bring back? What was your first initial reaction to doing the documentary, doing the show, and of course, being a Razorback guy, being an Arkansas guy? I mean, what was it like reliving all those memories?
Yep. You know, it was unbelievable. First of all, I got to give so much credit to Haley Ordway that done just a fabulous job on this, Ashlyn Greer. And I want to thank too, my daughter had a great idea of trying to get the 98 team together to watch it for the first time together. And she did a lot in 2 weeks. And so to answer your question, when I came up there and we started doing this interview, you know, it's one thing when you lived it, you went through it and you lived 98. That was the very first season for me. A dream job, you know, a little rock boy that grew up watching the Razorbacks all his life and never thought that you could be the head coach there. You know, always maybe hoped maybe one day, but you know, in reality, didn't think it would happen. But then it does happen, it does come true. And then when 25 years after, and you bring it to life, and you're sitting there watching it, it's just amazing how surreal it was to look at everything, and they were so well done. Talking to Joe Dean Davenport and Clint Sterner, Anthony Lucas, Russ Brown, just a few of those players, to get their insights. And boy, you start going week by week. It's like, oh my gosh. You know, I started getting kind of butterflies in my stomach every time a week 2 or week 3 would come up. You think, oh, here we go. And you start living it again. And it was just amazing. It's just a great, great feeling. And the biggest thing is just the players, that bond that we have has never left.
And that's one thing I really wanted to touch on, you know, how everything started and, of course, how everything ended. You move on, coaching, do CBS Sports. I mean, for it to be 25 years later and you do this and feel just as welcomed back as you did when you first got the job, how did that make you feel? Like, again, all these years later, there was no love lost, and it was like you were just as welcome back then as you are now.
You know, that was just a kind of a humbling thing because we didn't know. You know, we didn't leave. It wasn't great when we left. And, you know, it was some hard times there. Even though we had great, great years, there were some difficult 1 or 2 years in there. Is really difficult, especially for family. But you keep going back to the players. You know, I keep going back to them because they're the reason I was in the Arkansas Hall of Honor. There's no question about that. And go back and relive those celebrated locker rooms and the sacrifice and investment that we all in is just the greatest feeling. And very appreciative of the Arkansas fans that just welcome my family and I with open arms. And but you know, it made us feel great. We were really proud of that weekend that we had. I appreciate Hunter Huracek making that call to me to tell me that I'd been voted in the Arkansas Hall of Honor. And to be able to have that opportunity to watch a game, my first tailgate ever in my life was right there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Ate some good food, and it was around a lot of Razorback fans, man. And so, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Watching the documentary and then seeing a lot of the clips afterwards of the team gathering together and watching the documentary, it kind of comes almost full circle, because going back to when I remember what stood out a lot was the dedication clip when y'all dedicated the season and the emotion behind it, and then coming and watching the clips, and you really looked like a father watching his kids that have grown up. When you were watching your players' reactions to this film. So, I mean, how was it, getting to see them all these years later and see their input?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And now those young men, they had families. Most of them had wives with them and children. It's the greatest feeling there is. The greatest reward there is when a player says, "Hey, coach, I'm the husband I am today because of the 4 years that I had with you, or the 1 year I had with you." That's the greatest reward there is. And so it's a great feeling to go back and just, boy, you watch this and you watch players' reaction, and it's just amazing. It's kind of hard to put in words, how everybody was feeling, because it felt so good. And then you keep thinking, doggone, I wish we had 2 plays back. I wish we had 2 plays back. We felt like we could have been the best. We could have won that national title. You always have those kind of thoughts too. Like you're so close, you're right there, and nobody gave us a chance. And that's the thing. I knew that Danny Ford had recruited very well, but I noticed when I first got there was a lot of individuals, and what I mean by that is they were good people, good players, and I kept asking Lewis Campbell, and I kept asking Dean Weber, what am I missing? I know I've only been a head coach at Murray State and Boise State, but when I look at these guys on the hoof, when I look at Grant Garrett, Chris Chikuma, Joe Dean Davenport, Clint Sterner, Anthony Lucas, Zach Painter, Ryan Hale, CJ McClain, and I can name them all, but when I look, I'm thinking, what am I missing? Is the SEC so tough that we can't stay on the field with these guys? And I remember Dean Weber and Lewis Campbell both saying, look, they're some good athletes, but they just haven't had any success in SEC West. Now it's tough. It's the toughest in the country, and it's not easy to win one game. And so nobody really gave us a chance. But then all of a sudden, I could tell we started getting closer. And that dedication night, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a lot of people ask me that, Coach, how come you've never told us about dedication night? And dedication night was really kind of kind of for the players and us, that it was really always 1 week before the kickoff. It's that Sunday night before. But the first one in '98, I never will forget, we didn't have a team meeting room. So I asked Dean Weber or Lewis Campbell one to find us a room that's like a theater, and we got the Tyson building. We got that building, and we went there on that Sunday night, and as we walk after dinner, we're walking up, and they kept asking, "What's going on, Coach? What kind of meeting do we have?" I said, "You'll see. And so when they got there and they're sitting in the theater room, well, everybody was focused because they couldn't figure out what was going to happen. And we had it covered up. We had that brand new helmet covered up. Tim Chaney did such a good job, because during 2 days, we took the sticker off because the helmet was getting beat up and all that. But all of a sudden, we unveil and we let them know this is dedication night. We're going to dedicate this season to one another, and I'm going to start it. You could hear a pin drop. And what I didn't realize is how emotional that night would be. And coming back, I never will forget Marvin Caston and Anthony Lucas telling me, "Coach, you don't know what you did right here." I said, "What do you mean?" "You have no idea now, Coach. We are a band of brothers. We are closer than we've ever been." And you start hearing this word that sometimes people, 18, 19 years don't want to say, but all of a sudden they're up there with their hand on the helmet saying, "I love y'all, man. I don't have a family. My family is your family." And it gives me chill bumps and goosebumps when I think about it, because now I truly realize how that night really set the tone for the '98 season.
And watching you talk to Bo about that in the show, I could see your emotion. Even like I said, all these years later, there's moments in your life that like you said, Adam said, you felt like a father figure. I have moments in my life with my son that I can't even hardly talk about the same way without getting choked up, and it's going to be that way 25 years later. Just seeing that emotion and seeing how much it still meant to you, and then you go into that Alabama game, and it's almost like that was the true test of the season and how you dominated that game. Not only did you prove that you could win, but you proved that you could dominate against Alabama, and that just skyrocketed you all the way in throughout that season.
That did it. That really did it, because I was truly nervous about that game. Having, as a player from high school, Little Rock Central, visited Bear Bryant on campus at Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and knew the tradition and so many championships they've won, so many great athletes. Sean Alexander was a tailback who's just, as y'all know, was a phenomenal physical specimen that could run over you and outrun you and make you miss and all of the above. But when we won that one, and I mean, I really felt like we dominated, we out-hit them, we outplayed them, 42-6. That's when Clint Sterner really went back, and I love what he said. Now, all of a sudden, that first meeting when I put SEC champions on the board, win all our home games, and then we're going to be national champions. Then it was at first, that first time when they saw that on the board, it's kind of like, I don't know. They hadn't won too many games. So it's kind of like, I don't know about this guy. He's out there. But they found out that we were pretty consistent. And when we won that game, though, that game gave us that confidence of belief. And boy, we started believing and playing for one another and really went to another level after that game.
Going back to that season, how was your, after that one win, was it hard to keep the team focused for the next week? Were they looking ahead too much, or was it just game by game?
I wish I had the schedule in front of me, but the one thing I noticed with this group is, and I was really concerned after the Alabama game, because instead of the previous year walking to class, they said they got made fun of and people had jokes. Everybody was patting them on the back and everybody was jumping on that wagon. So I was worried about it until we hit the practice field, and I said, man, these guys got a maturity about them that I really love. They go about their work, they go about their business. And, Russell Brown always says that, he compares Danny Ford was work, and Coach Nutt was more, made it fun and cheerleader and all that. But what he left out was we probably ran more. We probably ran these guys more than the previous staff. We ran them, in off-season, fourth quarter, and they were in shape. They were in great shape. And I always wanted a team that was in great shape, especially when you hold up four fingers in the fourth quarter. I wanted that team to know that we're in great shape. And these guys were in great shape, but they went back to work after that win. And I felt so good about them. I said, these guys are they're on a mission right now. And they believe. And, when I always had a saying, when you believe, that's when you achieve. And I just felt that, the kickoff team, defense, offense, there was a togetherness. And Anthony kept telling me, he goes, we've never been this tight. We've never been this close. Because I noticed when I first got there in the spring, unlike when I played, we all lived under one roof. We lived in Wilson Sharp when I was a Razorback playing for Coach Broyles. The rules have it where they all can't live in the same dorm. So to do bed check, it takes a couple of hours because the freshmen are in the dorm. Then you got to go to this apartment, this condo. And so that spring, I made a lot of our coaches, hey, we're going to go to their apartments, go to their condo, go find out where they're living. And whether you got to play a video game with them or something, you got to get this relationship going, because it's one thing when you're in the field and you're in a classroom and you're teaching. There's something about when you go to his apartment or you get him in the car, let's go to Dairy Queen or let's go to Burger King or something, or you come to my house. There's something about that they say, hey, this is real now. And I like they see our staff that they would see, oh, that's how he talks to his wife. Oh, that's how he talks to his son. Oh, that's how Coach Nutt talks to his daughter. I mean, I like that as they see really what family was about. And as you see in that documentary, they always bring up family.
And moving to the infamous Tennessee game, and with so much, excitement, so much positivity going on, reliving that moment in time where the fumble occurred, talk about, the emotions of the team, yourself during that moment, and what was, inside that locker room after that moment happened, like behind the scenes, just kind of talk about what was going through their minds. And of course, going into that next week of that heartbreak against Mississippi State, what did it take to, really rally the troops and get their spirits back up to finish out the season strong?
What's amazing about when you're sitting there and they start, Tennessee game, and they show that Coliseum full of orange. It was a rainy night. I'll never forget. Rainy night, national TV. And I mean, we came out and we are playing. I mean, we're playing at a high level. We jump all over. And that whole sideline, even though there wasn't but 78 of us compared to 105,000 that they have, we had confidence. We had a real confidence level that was high. And we were playing hard. And we really outplayed Tennessee for 58 minutes. When I go back and speak to the Tennessee club, I always tell them, y'all owe me a ring because I helped you. I gift wrapped you a national title. And they always laugh about it, but it's true. I feel that way. But that night, the thing I want to cover, this is what I love about Clint Sterner so much. Clint Sterner carried a burden on him like no other. That is one of the toughest guys that I've ever known physically, but also to handle this. Because if you go back and look real close, it wasn't all about Clint Sterner on that one play. Everybody likes to say it is, but if you go back and look, and this is what I loved about our team after the game. When the reporters came in, it's a very tight dressing room, and I remember doing the after the game interview, and I just remember hearing the questions that were thrown out, and nobody was doing this. I confess it's your fault. Nobody was doing that. The deep snapper never snapped one over a punter's head, and since he said in the 6th, 7th grade. Anthony Lucas had even dropped a ball. He says, hey, I dropped one I should have caught. Joe Dean says I had one, probably would have scored, should have caught that. If you go through, there's about 6 or 7 things that happened that would have been different. That would have been different. That the outcome would have been so different. Not just Clint Sterner's deal. But I love the way our players handled that. Now, we were down now. Oh, we were down. That was a long, quiet road back, a trip back home. But I thought we kind of recovered, got going good, and got ready for Mississippi State. And we played our guts out. And, we didn't have our field goal kicker that week. I don't know if you remember that. But we didn't have our field goal kicker that week. And that was a brutal time because we needed him. We got inside the 30 about 6 times and really didn't have a kicker. And we barely got beat. And they made a great play at the end. It's the only time Mississippi State's beat us when we were there. It's the only time. Coach Sherrill's bunch made a great play there on 3rd and 18 at the end and got them a first down, and they won the game. But then after those 2 losses, there's where the gut check was happening, because I remember heads were down now, and it was that feeling like, and Russ Brown describes it so well, felt like, oh, here we go again. This is what I remember. This feeling in my gut is what I remember. 4-7, 4-7. And I remember cutting practice down just a little bit. Cut it down each period, because I thought we left it out there for 2 weeks on the road. We left it out there on the field. And so I said, if we're going to go to Little Rock, play LSU, kept telling our staff, we got to have energy and we got to have some passion, or this thing could get ugly. It can go the other way, because LSU's so talented, as y'all know. But as usual, these guys had such backbone and such character. Boy, they flipped it, and they got ready. And by Thursday, I felt real good. I was unsure Monday and Tuesday. But by Thursday, I said, hey, we are ready. We're going to go get this one. And it's a very tough game. But won that one, and it just, man, it got everybody back to where we were, the feeling that we had in the first 7, 8, 9 weeks.
You touched on the LSU game, and I mean, it was an absolute thumping, which we all enjoy. So ending the season or the regular season, on the high note, how was it, going into the offseason with your players that were coming back, your seniors that weren't, the camaraderie that y'all had gained? I mean, how did that progress after your first season with Arkansas?
It was the greatest time ever because I felt like that program wasn't lifeless anymore. I could feel our fans. I could feel recruiting the way it was going. And we had the best recruiters on campus, and it's the players. Mm-hmm. They were the ambassadors for the Razorbacks, and they were awesome. The only thing that was tough was Brandon Burlsworth week when he passed. That was tough. And that was the day, to give you an idea what a great person he was, every Wednesday in the spring, he drives home to Harrison to take his mother to church. And we're handing out our championship rings on a Wednesday in the spring. And comes by and says, Coach, you mind? I always take my mom to church on Wednesday. Can I go ahead and do that and I'll get my ring later? I said, no problem, Brandon. And that was a tough week because we lost a great, great young man who was just absolutely perfect in every way, on and off the field. And everything was in order, life in order, everything, the way he competed. That was tough. That was a very tough time. But getting back to the other part of it, his legacy still lives on today. And then the recruiting, I can feel it was taking off. And then you still had Clint Sterner coming back. You still had Anthony Lucas coming back. You still had a good nucleus of guys that were coming back. And so you felt good. When you have your quarterback coming back, just like KJ Jefferson, when you have a guy that's coming back that has laps around the track, you got a point guard, you got a real chance in the league. You got to have that guy. And so Clint Sterner was our guy and was awesome. And everything was going good. It was a great time. It was just a great feeling.
And ending on that with that season or with Clint Sterner, how rewarding was that Tennessee game that following year? They carried the goalpost down Dixon Street, but sending Clint and Anthony, guys who bought in right away, fought their tail off, and to get that win. And like you said, he carried that burden for a year. What did that mean for your program and those guys to really give an inside perception of how much that win meant to you, the team, and the program as a whole?
Yeah. That was such a phenomenal atmosphere. People don't realize, we got beat 28-24 in 98. We win the next year, 28-24. And so that was so rewarding. And to look in Clint Sterner's eyes after he gave him a big hug and let him know, hey, you got this done, buddy. And that one pass always comes to mind is great protection. Anthony Lucas on a post, perfect. I mean, it was on a rope. David Barrett intercepts a pass. I mean, all that is just such a rewarding feeling because Phil Fulmer had a great football team. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I really think that helped us. We got beat in a bowl game the first year, the Capital One. So I really made a point like, hey, 99 going, we got 2000 Cotton Bowl. Listen, we're going to win us a bowl. We hadn't won a bowl game here. They said in 15 years. 15 years. We're winning this ball game. Now we got to play Texas. And of course, here we go now. Mm-hmm. As y'all know, the big old Texas, the big bullies of the Southwest Conference days. It brings back all these memories of Coach Broyles. And of course, Coach Broyles and Darryl Royal were honorary captains all week. And I was a nervous wreck during that week because of all the games. As a little boy, it was Texas. They were the real deal. And excuse me. But I feel like that win of Tennessee really propelled us. That kind of gave us the confidence because we beat the defending national champions. And I think it took us the right attitude, work ethic into the bowl preparation. We wanted to have a good Cotton Bowl people do such a great job with players, families. But I kept saying, look, I want to have a good time, but the good time is going to come on that January 1st when you beat Texas. You know, we kept emphasizing, this is how we're going to spell fun is W-I-N, guys. I love that you're getting gifts. I love that we have all this great places that we're going, all the great food we're eating, but let's win the Cotton Bowl. And so that's where I give credit to that senior class that went down there, wrote the first win in a bowl game in 15 years versus Texas was it was awesome.
And, you know, looking back at your career as a whole and all the people that, you know, I know we emphasized a lot on the 98 and Clint Stoner, but you look back at Clint Stoner, you know, Matt Jones, Darren McFadden, all the legends that you coached, and all these years later, we still talk about, you know, just reflect as we wrap things up, reflect on your time at Arkansas, and just, again, all these years later, being able to be in the Hall of Honor and still look back and you got to be at the helm of some of the greatest teams and some of the greatest players to ever play and put on that Razorback uniform.
You know, Danny, my brother, probably doesn't get enough credit. You know, when you recruit Arkansas as an Arkansas recruiter, you know, people expect you to you got to sign Arkansas kids. Well, what they don't realize is Matt Jones had a lot of opportunities to go anywhere he wanted to go. And these recruiters are the greatest salesmen in the world. Sean Andrews, Darren McFadden, and Matt Jones, 6'6", 237, and runs 4.37.
Yeah.
And every time I'd go to the midfield, that head coach or defense coordinator said, the film doesn't do Matt Jones justice. He's so fast. I've never seen a guy that can run like that. And then he started getting better at throwing the ball. He threw a lot of touchdown passes. Mm-hmm. And he did a great job in 2 of the longest games in the world, 7 overtimes. And I'm talking about overtime like we know it. Mm-hmm. Overtime's a little bit different now. I'm talking about real overtime. There was long games, you know, where Matt Jones had ice water in his veins. But, you know, Darren McFadden and all these Peyton Hillises and all the great players, and also Jerry Wright. You mentioned Jerry Wright. Dan Doty, I think one of the things that kind of gets kind of goes unnoticed is we recruited Arkansas so hard where we'd turn over rocks. Dan Doty wasn't a 4-star or 3-star, but Dan Doty ended up being a starting center that could bench press 400 pounds. Jerry Wright was a phenomenal fundamental football player that's tough, and guess what? He loves the Hogs. And when you get a guy that's a fighter and has a heart like Jerry and Dan Doty and Bo Lacey, I can name so many. Mm-hmm. These guys would motivate those Texas stars. They would say, oh, that's how a Razorback practices. Oh, that's what a commitment means when you really commit and get in the weight room and get stronger, faster. You do anything for your teammate. And so it's that type of attitude that it's contagious. And so I don't want to leave those guys out when the stars are, you got to have them. You got to have Matt Jones that runs 4.3. You got to have Darren McFadden, Sean Andrews. You got to have them. But you also got to go get those guys that are underneath those rocks that doesn't have that much publicity. But you know this. You know they're tough. You know they have character. And they will fight you to the end. And that's, to me, is what Arkansas is all about.
And we'll end it on this, you know, comparing, you know, I look back at your era and look at this era, and you know, Frank Broyles and Hunter Yurachek, 2 guys that really just love being part of the Arkansas Razorback program. You were an Arkansas guy. I know Coach Pittman was from Oklahoma, but pretty much on the border. I mean, he was an Arkansas guy. So many similarities, but just seeing how everything is at Arkansas, you know, and you were talking about it in the resurgence, you know, just that missing piece, you know, and Arkansas now is searching for that success. And if you could just give one, you know, piece of advice or something that you're hoping forward to, you know, in this program where we're at now, you know, what would you say to the team, you know, or the program to really kind of say, hey, look, I was in your shoes. I know where this program was at when I come to Arkansas, and we can get there now in 2023 and really turn things around.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I get to watch football now at home, and I get to flip channels. I get to watch. I don't have to go to New York. I don't have to watch other games. I can zero in. So I zero in, of course, first and foremost on Arkansas. Mm-hmm. I love the way that Coach Pittman had his team ready to go Saturday night. To me, if you have that tenacity, that effort, that attitude, that Razorback fighting spirit that he had in Baton Rouge, if you had that the week before versus BYU, BYU would have been out the stadium. They'd been gone. They'd been knocked out by halftime. And to me, it's just a small thing, but it's a big thing. It's just little things. And I love the way KJ Jefferson handled. He was a soldier, a warrior. And I thought the offensive line played better. But the only thing I would say is this. Guys, it's the little things. This whole season can change right now. When you go to Jerry's World, a former Razorback, you're going to get to play in one of the greatest stadiums in the world. Don't take that for granted. And you're representing Arkansas, and you're playing Texas A&M, and you can beat Texas A&M. I've seen Texas A&M play for 2 weeks now. You can beat them, but you can't help them. For the last 2 weeks, I've seen illegal procedures. You can't do it. You can't do it. We got to know the snap count. I don't care how loud it is. I don't care if their band's playing or whatever. While we got the snap count, we know the snap count, and we're not going to give up lost yardage. You're not going to give up lost yardage plays. Everybody get on the same page on that deal, and just bring that same. I thought Coach Pittman had them ready Saturday night. I love how they were fighting, man, and LSU thought they were just going to go up and down the field, dominate like they did against Mississippi State. Didn't happen. So that game could have been very easily won. But I go back to this. It's the little bitty things. Win the turnover margin. Let's take care of our penalties. And then the plays, I don't know what it was, but you lost 3 timeouts in the third quarter. You know, somebody was telling me on the radio today, I was doing a radio show and said, well, Coach Pittman should have let them score. But, you know, I've been under Lou Holtz, Jimmy Johnson, Pat Jones, Jack Crow, Monty Kiffin as a defensive coordinator. Not one time did I ever hear those guys say, let's let them score. You know, it's just, you don't teach that. You don't practice that. And I guess with the new analytics, I guess, you know, you don't have any timeouts. I guess you could, but you don't think about that. I think it'd be easier to go back to what we said. Keep your same effort. Let's eliminate these penalties. Let's know we got the advantage. We know the snap count. Let's stay on side. And let's take care of our timeouts. And if you do that, to me, that's a W. That's a win. You're going to beat LSU at LSU. Mm-hmm. You played almost well enough to beat them. But to me, what was it? It was just little things. So my only word to them would be, hey, let's take care of the little things. Because you got the heart, you got the effort. And, you know, that's what Razorback people want to see. They want to see that. And I think they show that big time. And now, you know, again, you got to win. And you got a great chance to win this Saturday. Great chance.
Well, Coach Nutt, again, it's been an honor to have you on and be a part of the show. Thank you again for coming on and sharing your time and reliving those moments with Resurgence. And, of course, you know, talking about this program now. And, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good one, sir. Well, that was Coach Nutt. Shoot. Good to have him on. What an episode that was. I mean, what a time. You know, you're talking about, you know, what we're living through now, and we see what's there. Like when, you know, you watch Resurgence and you see this thing build up. And I remember the 98 game. You know, I was watching it on TV, and you've seen the excitement that this program was. And it's like you relive the Nutt days. You relive, you know, the Bobby Petrino era, because it got you success. And we talked about that 9-win season under Pittman and as that occurs, but it's like it brought back some of those memories, and we know that this team could get back there. And I'm telling you right now, if we're that excited about something that happened 25 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, if this happens underneath the Sam Pittman era, which we know it can, and they go on a run and start turning things around, I'm telling you that this fan base is going to be just as fanatic as it was back when Houston Nutt was coaching at Arkansas, and we remember, the Bobby Petrino years. We know it can get back there. It's just we're sitting there just waiting for that spark to happen and that fire to take off.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, like we talked on, and Coach Nutt just reiterated wholeheartedly, is the little things.
Yep.
The little things that we've been talking about that just once they get those buttoned up, it's a completely different ball game.
Well, hopefully, again, we're talking about, a win on Sunday when we resume.
Saturday.
On Saturday. Yes. I was talking about our show.
Oh, my fault.
No, you're good. But for Adam Hall, Porter Hayes, again, another special episode of the Hog Talk podcast, and we will catch you on Sunday to recap the game against Texas A&M.